But if they're going to go and do anything to undermine the dollar, I don't even know that they're a member of BRICS, but they had a few nations get together to try and play cute. I said, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every one of those nations. And I think that's all broken up. That idea has no longer sailed. Now, that would be a terrible thing for our country. It would be bad for the world. They wanted to undermine the dollar.
Powerful group of countries. It is an important balance in the world.
What would Donald Trump do if Jamaica joined BRICS? The geopolitical landscape is shifting, and the emergence of the BRICS bloc, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has presented new challenges to the traditional dominance of Western powers. Jamaica, a small but strategically significant nation in the Caribbean, has historically aligned itself with the West, particularly the United States. However, if Jamaica were to join BRICS, it would signal a bold realignment in its foreign policy. With Donald Trump now serving as President of the United States, his response to such a development would undoubtedly be shaped by his characteristic boldness, nationalism, and transactional diplomacy.
Hello, brothers and sisters. I hope you're all doing fine. Now, we are seeing a conflict of interest that is happening in Jamaica right now. Now, Jamaican government has been trying to apply to join the BRICS, but their approval has always been denied. And you can ask yourself what is not happening in this Caribbean country. Now, US has always been funding projects in Jamaica, same as the Chinese government has always been doing the same. Now, this is actually putting Jamaica into a crisis. We've seen their prime minister coming out to address this matter, that they are interested in joining the BRICS. But you might ask yourself, why is the BRICS not allowing Jamaica to join them? So let's watch this video, then have a quick discussion at the end of it. Thank you so much.
It is essential to understand the significance of BRICS and why Jamaica's potential membership would be a matter of interest for the United States. BRICS was initially formed as an economic bloc of emerging economies, aiming to challenge the Western-dominated global financial systems. Over time, it has evolved into a geopolitical force advocating for a multipolar world order. With recent expansions, BRICS now includes countries from Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America, broadening its influence. Jamaica's strategic importance lies in its location in the Caribbean, a region historically considered the United States' backyard. As a key member of CARICOM, the Caribbean community, Jamaica wields regional influence and has close economic ties to the U.S. through trade, tourism, and remittances. Joining BRICS would signify a departure from its traditional alignment and a pivot toward a bloc that includes U.S. rivals like China and Russia. To understand why Jamaica might consider joining BRICS, one must also examine the economic and political benefits the bloc offers to smaller nations. BRICS provides an alternative to Western-dominated financial systems, such as the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank, often criticized for imposing stringent conditions on loans. For Jamaica, access to BRICS' new development bank could offer favorable financing for infrastructure projects and other development initiatives. Additionally, the bloc's emphasis on South-South cooperation aligns with Jamaica's aspirations for greater autonomy in global affairs. P.J. Patterson, a former Prime Minister of Jamaica and a respected voice in Caribbean affairs, has expressed views that align with the rationale behind Jamaica potentially joining BRICS. Patterson has long advocated for greater South-South cooperation and a reduced reliance on Western powers. In his speeches and writings, he has emphasized the importance of diversifying Jamaica's international partnerships and seeking alternatives to the traditional financial institutions that often impose rigid conditions on smaller nations. Trump's foreign policy often relied on economic tools to exert pressure. If Jamaica joined BRICS, he might threaten or impose tariffs on Jamaican exports to the U.S., such as coffee, rum, and bauxite. He could also restrict investments or tighten regulations on Jamaican businesses operating in the U.S. Such measures would aim to demonstrate the economic consequences of aligning with BRICS. However, they could also risk backlash, particularly from American businesses with interests in Jamaica. Trump would need to balance his desire for leverage with the potential economic fallout. The U.S. provides significant aid to Jamaica, particularly for development projects and disaster relief. Trump might threaten to cut this aid, using it as leverage to coerce Jamaica into withdrawing from BRICS. This strategy aligns with his transactional view of foreign aid, which he often described as a bad deal, unless it directly benefited the US reducing aid, however, could have unintended consequences, such as pushing Jamaica further into BRICS orbit. The bloc's new development bank could step in to fill the gap, providing Jamaica with alternative sources of funding. This dynamic would underscore the limitations of Trump's strategy and highlight the growing influence of BRICS in the global South. The US is Jamaica's largest source of tourists, making the tourism industry a critical part of the Jamaican economy. Trump might leverage this by warning American travelers against visiting Jamaica, citing safety or political concerns. While such a move would face criticism, it would align with his history of using economic leverage to achieve political goals. To counter such measures, Jamaica could diversify its tourism market, targeting visitors from BRICS nations. China, in particular, has a growing middle class with significant travel potential. By promoting itself as a destination for Chinese and Indian tourists, Jamaica could mitigate the impact of any US-imposed travel restrictions. Trump might respond to Jamaica's BRICS membership by strengthening ties with other CARICOM nations.
We have regained the respect that we should have, but we've also done things to deserve it. I mean, we've freed up our country, and you're going to see this is basically energy dominance. I think that's breaking up very rapidly. We said that if they're going to go and do anything to undermine the dollar, that includes China. I don't even know that they're a member of BRICS, but they had a few nations get together to try and play cute. And I said, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every one of those nations. And at the mere thought of saying that, I think that's all broken up. That idea has no longer sailed. Now, that would be a terrible thing for our country. It would be bad for the world. They wanted to undermine the dollar. 6 nations got together. They wanted to undermine the dollar. That didn't work out too well. Not going to happen. And we're getting along with a lot of nations now, frankly. There's a lot of respect for the United States. We have regained the respect that we should have, but we've also done things to deserve it. I mean, we've freed up our country, and you're going to see this is basically energy dominance, and it's going to be environmentally clean, environmentally wonderful, and taxes will be very reasonable based on this. We're going to make more money than anybody's ever made with energy. We have more energy than anybody else, and it's clean energy, very clean, beautiful energy. We're lucky. We have it. I call it liquid gold under our feet, and we're going to utilize it.
Thank you very much, sir, for making time to speak to us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. First of all, your thoughts on the formation of BRICS as a group of nations. What do you think of it?
First, it's a powerful group of countries. It is an important balance in the world. And it is important to have a kind of college of similar states of development, facing similar problems, to create a buffer, to create also a kind of political statement about the need and intention of developing themselves, and to create a fraternity of common views. I think it's important as a political tool, a political statement, but it has evolved over the years to become more of an economic bloc, to create greater opportunities for trade, but more than that, to create the linkages for investment. And we see that China has made some announcements about making significant investments in South Africa. China is investing right across the globe. But it also creates, on top of that layer, the possibility for networking. I want to, at this point, say how honored Jamaica is, and I'm chairman of CARICOM. CARICOM being a grouping of 14 states in the Caribbean, to be asked to participate in the summit this year as part of the outreach initiative. It's very important to create an avenue for networking, to give time to countries who are not necessarily a part of the group to come and interact and engage. There are many issues affecting other nations, may not be affecting the BRICS countries because they're relatively large countries, but smaller countries have particular issues to do with vulnerabilities, climate change, access to trade, access to technology. And it is important to have the platform to bring these issues, to make countries like BRICS countries aware of these issues, to increase their sensitivity and their natural sympathy for countries like Jamaica, and to, based on that awareness, to inspire action that is positive towards global development, but in particular, development of small states.
Prime Minister, one of the biggest talking points of this particular summit is the issue of the trade wars. I'm sure you are familiar, and I'm not sure to what extent that Jamaica is exposed, to trading with the US, and what its effect is. But what do you make of that? Because it is quite a big talking point within this grouping of countries.
Jamaica as a small state relies, and like all small states, on a global system. That global system has to be transparent. Small countries are not able to navigate a chaotic global system. So we depend on a system of trade, of finance, of security that is transparent, that is predictable, that is fair. So we always support a rules-based, fair, multilateral system. It is in our interest so to do. And the current developments in the global trade system, though they have not affected us directly as yet, because we don't know where it will go, we have seen signs, and we are observing it very carefully. And there are unintended effects. So, for example, we are a major producer of bauxite and trader of bauxite globally. It could have an effect, but so far it has not had a direct effect. Other things like sanctions have had effect on our country, unintended consequences. So for us, we're always more comfortable with a stable, predictable, transparent, rules-based global system. So we observe what is happening with caution, and we would always want to see a return to a rules-based, normal, transparent trading system.
While you are a relatively small economy compared to perhaps the BRICS countries that are represented here, what is your approach to the fourth industrial revolution that is coming to the world with a lot of speed, I must say?
We have to embrace it. We have no choice. Small economies like Jamaica lost out on the industrial revolution. Obviously, many of our small states were still colonies. We were not advanced in thinking, but now we're independent countries. We hold our fate in our hands. So we have to reach out and embrace the new changes in technology. One of the things that we are trying to do in Jamaica is to change the view of technology where we are only consumers of technology. We have to get our young people to start being producers, creators of technology, and to view technology not as something strange to them, but technology is within your environment and you can create it. And so there are many areas in which we can add value, create knowledge, and in particularly in the cultural and entertainment, in the intellectual property areas, Jamaica is doing fairly well, but we need to do more. For example, we're doing research in cannabis to create new drugs, and that could be one area in which we could be world leaders in this new fourth industrial revolution. But we still have a far way to go. Jamaica is heavily into services, and therefore we have to take a particular interest in ensuring that our young people are technology savvy, that they can apply technology to create products within the financial services area that could continue to make Jamaica grow in this regard.
One of the similarities with that South Africa has with Jamaica is its interest in tourism. You're quite a tourism-intensive country. We also have a relatively healthy tourism sector. What do you think what kind of lessons can we share, or experiences can the two countries share together? I know that in 2012 we signed a memorandum of understanding between the two countries, and I'm not sure what has happened since then to now.
We've had some exchanges.
Yes.
But more can be done. Tourism is such a a great potential, and Jamaica has not exhausted its potential. I'm sure South Africa has not exhausted its potential, and I think there are areas of cooperation which could enhance both our countries. If the first thing I believe is that we need to get the African continent to visit the Caribbean.
Yeah.
We would love to have more tourists from South Africa. So there has to be, for that to happen, however, a commitment on both sides towards simple things, simple but necessary things. For example, airlift. We have to sort out the movement of people between our two countries, and we haven't done that over the years. My presence here is also to push for that. In terms of our discussion, I'll be meeting with your president, and I intend to raise that. It has been raised already. There are conversations going on, but I think we should get it more advanced because the Caribbean is, I think, the undiscovered part of the African region, and I believe that we should have more of our brothers and sisters.
Now, we've seen whatever is happening in Jamaica, and I feel like this is the time we should speak the truth. I'm talking about Jamaica because it is a Caribbean country which is dominated by black brothers and sisters. Now, there has been ongoing talks, and this one is hitting the internet because Jamaica is at crossroads, and people are feeling like the government is putting more pressure from the outside, and this one is going to affect Jamaica because in the last few days we've seen whatever has been happening in Jamaica. We've been having mass shootings, we've been having a lot of insecurity issues, and however much people will deny this, because I'm not talking it from the bad side, I'm talking it to address this matter, so that if there is anyone from the government who happens to watch this video, should know that the world knows whatever is going in Jamaica. Now, this is whatever is happening in Jamaica. Some 5 years ago, the Jamaican government was interested in joining BRICS. You all know the countries that belong to BRICS. These are countries that felt like they are no longer going to side with the Western countries, and they had their own pact. And in this one, they do development and other things in their member associate countries. Now, this was due to Jamaica was joining due to the conflict of interest between the US and China, in that when Barack Obama was the president, now he declared Jamaica as a close ally. Now, when Trump came into power, he even met the Jamaican leader and all Caribbean leaders, and he said that he's going to work closely with them. Now, this happened again when Joe Biden took over power, that we saw Kamala Harris meeting with the prime minister and briefing out the development that they were going to do. Now, in the report that was given by Elon Musk and the Doge Group, now it was disclosed that the US government has been spending quite a lot of money on Jamaica, and we had the LGBTQ thing that they were funding there and so many other projects. Now, this has actually brought some suspicion, because if the US government has invested a lot, like the taxpayers' money from the US people is going to fund developments in Jamaica. Now, what is the way forward for Jamaica? Because we've seen the Chinese government funding the same projects in Jamaica. So this is where the conflict of interest came from. And this is why the Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness was suggesting that to end all these things that are happening, to end all these demands by the two countries, that Jamaica was going to shift to BRICS. And here comes the breaking news that BRICS are not allowing Jamaican membership to the pact, that they have been trying to apply for the last 5 years, but it has never been approved because of the mixed today they're on the other side, today they're on the other side, that they wanted to join China in the BRICS, but the US has been funding projects in Jamaica. So there is that crisscross that Jamaican people or the Jamaican government is still at. And we've seen Jamaicans being deported from the US. Is this a sign that the US is actually releasing Jamaicans saying, no, look for another person to work with. We are tired with you. Now, this is a very important topic to the people of Jamaica. Now, I want to brief you on something that most of you might have missed some 3 years back. Now, the US ambassador to Jamaica was once crying out for China breaching out the security protocols in China. He was actually putting allegations that the Chinese companies that bring electronics into Jamaica, they install some microchips or whatever that tracks your information, tracks wherever you are going, whatever you are doing, and who you talk to. And he said he was a victim of the same, that his calls were being actually tracked by the Chinese government, that the Chinese government is monitoring any movement in Jamaica, including the people of Jamaica. And I was saying to myself that if this is true, then this is very wrong, because the IMA number that should be on devices should not actually be tracked, because this one breaches the constitution of each country. It breaches the freedom, your freedom, by the way, and your rights, because you have the right to own private informations, like to own personal informations that no one else should have. Like, these are very fundamental human rights that no one should breach them at any cost. And I was telling myself, if the Jamaican government is actually allowing this to be done, then it's very wrong. If the Chinese government is doing this because of whatever development or of whatever contract it has with Jamaica, then it should be put to a stop if it was actually true. We don't know if the allegations went on and they were taken to court to be proven. But this is a time, brothers and sisters, when we as black people, we as black nations, we as people of the African descent should actually sit down. Our leaders should sit down and see the way out from the Western countries. These are the same countries that have put us into the crisis. They colonized us, they enslaved us, they exploited us, they have done every manner of bad things to us. So we have no excuse to still work with them. They have no excuse to come up to us and still demand to actually work with us, because I feel this is the time we should say enough is enough. When do we want to say this? When do we want to tell them? When we are dying? When we are in our graves? Hell no. We should actually come out and say this should be the last time this is happening to our countries, because I've seen a lot of Jamaicans still crying out with no jobs. The brain drain that is happening in Jamaica is very crazy. I saw a lady from the US who was complaining and say, Jamaicans are moving here in large numbers. Teachers, doctors, engineers. So, in your mind, who do you think remains to work for Jamaica? Who is still working? What professionalism is in Jamaica? If everyone is moving out in Jamaica to look for a better life, I can't blame the people moving out. I do blame this government for never putting in the required policies to protect the people who are working in the same country. They have never been interested to increase their salaries because there is money. All they do is exploit. The other day, I saw the Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness with a case, corruption case. And you know what? It will end with no verdict, because it is always the people's fault for electing you. It is never your fault for stealing from the people. It is never your fault from misusing the funds, from misusing people's taxes. Those taxes do not belong to these people that are in power. The sovereign power of every country belongs to the people, because if the people will decide that you are not going to be their leader anymore, and they demonstrate to that palace, to that White House, to that State House, to where you live, you won't be there anymore, because they gave you the power. They pay the taxes. If at all people stops paying taxes, it means all services the government offers will be paralyzed. So it is good when we put our own leaders on toes, when we actually oversee on whatever our taxes do. This is where we assume that most black people think the taxes we pay, they belong to the government. They don't. They do not. We elected them, because we cannot all go sit down in a house and make a decision. So we elected them. They speak on the behalf of us. We pay them to be there. They enjoy some privileges, the security details they have, and every other things, the houses they have, the cars they drive. And in return, they should work and provide services. But whatever they do, what do? They go ahead, loot and loot and loot the money. Whatever is happening in Jamaica is so bad. I know Jamaicans are going to be pissed with this video, so much pissed, because I say the truth, that their prime minister has been having corruption allegations for the last 6 years. And the government, if the head of the government is having corruption allegations, you want to imagine whatever is happening to the juniors. They loot. Everyone in that government will loot, as long as the head is not transparent and cannot be held accountable to whatever is happening. So this is just a wake-up call to all Jamaicans that there is a conflict of interest between China and the US, and this has affected them from joining BRICS. And this one is still bringing them to neocolonization, that you want to yourself to be free. This is the time. Hold your government accountable and let them know that you want to know the way forward. You should always be told on whatever is happening in your own countries. You elected the leaders didn't elect you. You have the sovereign powers. Confront your leaders if you can. Thank you so much.